What's up, YouTube? Back at you with another video. Before I get into it, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. I want to start off by saying how much of a fan of the Kingdom Hearts series I am. Like some or most people, I grew up with the franchise. I've always been a fan of Disney films growing up, particularly the Disney Renaissance era and prior. Also a select handful of Pixar films as well. A few years before the release of Kingdom Hearts, my first introduction to this style of RPG was a game by the then Squaresoft called Threads of Fate. A solid prelude to what would go on to be my favorite game of all time. Fast forward to Christmas 2002, at the ripe age of 9, I got Kingdom Hearts as a present from my mom. I remember looking at the case and thinking, cool looking characters and Disney characters? This is great! Starting off on Destiny Islands and being just as ready and excited to get off the island as Sora, Kairi, and Riku. Except, unlike them, I already knew what was out there. Worlds like Agrabah, Deep Jungle, Halloween Town, and Neverland made me feel like I was there. And others like Hollow Bastion scared the shit out of me because for a very long portion of my life I was petrified and had many nightmares involving Maleficent. But anyway, I can't stress enough how much the story, the characters, their struggles and relationships shaped me as a person. There's been so many moments that brought me to tears of joy and sadness. The gaming experience over this 19-year span of time has been like no other. And there's no other game, series, or franchise that I've been so proud to be a fan of. And there's no other that I would rather have grown up with than Kingdom Hearts. Of the many characters in the game, immediately I took a liking to Riku. From the very beginning, he had that X factor. The bigger, stronger, faster, always one step ahead. The cooler character who was destined for greatness. Who just seemed to have it all figured out at such a young age. Those were qualities I aspired to have. Not that I hate Sora, but you can imagine how terrible it was to wish to play as another character the entire game. I'm the guy in the movie theater that, from time to time, you'll catch rooting for the villain. Given the circumstances, from his perspective, I didn't blame him for going his own way. Losing someone special, feeling replaced, deserted, and cast aside by the one friend who was left in favor of new friends. Even if that wasn't the intention, it felt and looked that way, even for me at such a young age. When Riku sided with darkness, I was all for it. Not to mention that my favorite weapon, even to this day, is the Soul Eater. One of my favorite moments, if not my favorite moment, was when Riku clapped the beast, verbally beat Sora, took his rightful Keyblade back, and stole his friends without a scratch. Flawless victory. Right after that, we see his dark mode for the first time, a new moveset, and a song that I'd never forget. But I was also happy to see that he would never let someone else control him, because he was too strong for that. Although I'm not a big fan of the card system and Chain of Memories, I relish the fact that Riku was finally playable. Amongst all the other characters in the series, his story, to me, was the most profound and had the most potential. His growth, the misguided youth, wrestling with not only his inner demons but himself, to coming to a place of acceptance, and through that acceptance his path became clear. Not choosing the paths that others lay out for him, but forging one of his own. And that, along the way, it never hurts to have a friend who's there to lend a helping hand. By 358 days, it was still evident that finding yourself can be a long and tumultuous process. That one can end up becoming something or someone that is unrecognizable to not only the ones closest to you, but to yourself. Even him wearing the blindfold because he didn't want to lie has to be one of the coolest nuances in the game. Even in Kingdom Hearts 2, he was still always one step ahead of our hero, who by that time I finally took a liking to because Sora finally developed qualities that I felt were long overdue. Riku became that behind the scenes older brother, guide figure for Sora, which made him even more cooler. Watching that, I wish that I had a friend or older brother that had my back that way. He was willing to put Sora and the greater good before himself, which was a huge leap from the Riku we met in Kingdom Hearts 1. By the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, Riku had come full circle. Hair was longer, clothes were cooler, he's taller with a keyblade of his own, and the icing on the cake was that he was finally reunited with his friends. By a dream drop distance, he remained steadfast even in the face of Ansem and others who would taunt him about his past. And now, deeply rooted Riku could no longer be swayed by the winds of others' words, to the point where the bad guys had to move down the list and go after a more susceptible Sora, who himself hadn't had that many experiences with darkness like Riku did. In comes Kingdom Hearts 3, and along with that, a character who took the place of the one I was familiar with. Now I'm all for growth and becoming the man that you're supposed to be, but how is it that he's become just as much of a different person as he was when he had to become Ansem in Days in Kingdom Hearts 2? But this time, way less cool and way too similar to a character that I'll mention a bit later. Riku looks younger in Kingdom Hearts 3 than he did at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2. He looks like he got shorter, and in my opinion, they ruined his hair. It wasn't at all what I had hoped, imagined, and expected for his character for what at that point was and is the climax of the Dark Seeker Saga. The only time I felt I was watching Riku was when his replica was around, and I couldn't help but feel like Ansem when he used to tell Riku to act more like the replica. When the two shared the screen, Riku Replica upstaged this new version of Riku, and I hated that because the replica is not real. They even got rid of what was supposed to be symbolic of who Riku was and the path that he had chosen, which was the way to dawn. His keyblade broke, and then they gave him a damn Honda Civic key. Riku used to be elite. He would be able to go against anyone and hold his own. When Terranort showed up, he just stood there and did nothing. The Riku I used to know would have sprung into action like he always had and did something. This Riku now just looks and acts and sounds average. The only endearing moment where I saw a flash of his former self was when he stepped up when Sora couldn't, against the Heartless. And even in the moment of great adversity, he still stood strong. Outside of that one moment, I feel they had stripped Riku of all that made him who he was, on the outside and on the inside. Almost like his former self was brushed off to set the stage for this new guy. Speaking of new guy, why does Riku look and dress exactly like Yozora? That honestly has to be the worst part about it. No longer distinct and not nearly as significant anymore because another character who looks exactly like him plays a much bigger role in the grand scheme of things. As far as we know, I absolutely despise the uncanny similarity between the two, and I don't feel that it's necessary. I don't want my favorite character to be a replica, so I find myself gravitating to Xehanort, who we are somewhat getting to know, but we really don't know him the way we know other characters. Nor do we get to spend as much time around him. Before anyone starts to get mad, please understand, I don't hate him. But imagine growing up with a show and having a favorite character on the show, for them to scrap or recast the character without some sort of proper exit. That's not cool. And it's something that's been on my mind ever since Kingdom Hearts 3 came out a few years ago. And clearly, still somewhere in my mind right now, to the point where I have all this to say. I couldn't really say this if I didn't truly love the games or the character. It's just my opinion. Nonetheless, the previous iterations of Riku are the ones that I'll remember and try to keep in the forefront of my mind whenever I'm looking at Yozora. Sorry, I mean the current Riku. So that's all I got to say for right now. With that said, I hope you made it to the end of this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.